I am Jeff Ado. This is Lunacy, where we discern the sacred from the insane and admit that whether we like it or not, we are all profoundly affected by the cycles of the moon. How? Nice. You got a really good howl. Yeah, good. Perfect. Beautiful. My guest today is my good friend Aluna Lua. She is the co-founder. She is the co-founder of the psychedelic media company Ascension Arts and head coach of the Plant Spirit School. She works as a entheogenic facilitator, performing artist, and integration coach. Lua is from Brazil and has been an ally for indigenous communities in Brazil for over a decade. She is specialized in the medicines of hape, combo, and cannabis and is based in Los Angeles, California. Welcome to the show, Lua.
Thank you so much for having me. What's up, everyone?
Yeah, what's up, everyone? They can't respond. You might be talking to yourself in your car right now. You might be saying a bunch of stuff, but we're not actually listening, you guys, although we wish you will. Right,
But we're
Lua?
here with you.
Yes, exactly. This is for you. Okay, great. So, a little disclaimer before we get started. You know what I mean? On this episode, we're going to talk about Santa Maria, also known as marijuana, Mary Jane, weed, the joints, ganja, the sticky icky, the kush, the chronic, the kind bud, the green dragon, the great uplifter, the good giggle. Okay? We're going to talk about getting stoned, high, faded, baked, bunkered, bonanzed, or blended. If there is any chance that you are going to later claim that this episode made you smoke a the doobage, don't listen. Okay? Uh, if you might get triggered or troubled, or you'd like to pretend that marijuana doesn't exist or isn't a multi-billion-dollar industry, please feel fully free to go stick your head in the pot-free clouds and skip this hamburger. Good on you. Also, and for realsies, on this episode, at some point, we are going to imbibe in this sacred medicine legally in the great state of California. If that's going to mess you up, please don't listen. If you are under 18, there is some scientific evidence out there that shows that human beings that use marijuana heavily before the age of 16, while the brain is still developing physiologically in your noggin, quote, may perform more poorly on cognitive or behavioral tasks involving the frontal cortex, such as memory, attention, and judgment, than those who don't use cannabis or who started using it later in life. End quote. That's from some homies at Harvard. Take it as you will. But seriously, if you're younger, I would encourage you to hold off. You don't want to mess with the temple too much before the foundation is built, so to speak. If you do smoke a lot and you are that age, no worries. I would consider reducing your usage, maybe holding off until you get a little older. As my grandfather always said, all good things in moderation. Thank you, Grandpap. All right, good. With that, I feel like we can fucking start, Lua. You know what I mean? We've
Let's
told
do
everybody
it.
we're going to smoke some doobage. We're getting into the potskis. All right. They know in advance. If they're freaked out, they turned it off. All right. They changed the channel. Go watch Joe Rogan or something. And he's probably got an
Yes.
episode like this too. Awesome. So great. So, I wanted to talk to you because Jade Michael is a really good friend of yours, and I know you're a teacher of hers, and she speaks very highly of you and a lot of her process that she's developed currently. The Neuro Sovereignty Project is something that she created or developed, in tandem with doing ceremonies and such with you, which I think is dope. Pun intended. Okay. And so yeah, maybe I'd love to just maybe get like started with like a little bit of I know little bit of your history because I did some research on you, know what I mean? But just for the listeners out there, give us a little bit of history of Lua, where you came from, and how you came to be a facilitator with this sacred medicine.
Mm-hmm. So I was born and raised in Brazil. And when I was under 18, I was going to psytrance festivals and doing tons of drugs
Okay.
with the intention to escape from my life. I wasn't happy. I was very unhealthy in many ways, had a bad relationship with my family. I just wanted to do drugs and forget about the world.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was about 19, I had my first spiritual awakening in a rave with an LSD experience.
Oh wow. You how old again?
I was 19.
Okay.
And I have taken LSD a lot until then, but that was like a big dose that woke me up in a really big way. And everything became very spiritual suddenly. And I was not spiritual at all. I didn't believe in God. I had no faith. Life was shitty. And that experience, at the same time, I started to feel the spiritual energies and spirits around me. I was very intoxicated by poor eating and lots of heavy drugs. So I was having like an enlightening experience, and at the same time, very overwhelming. Like my body was tired. I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
So this man found me, and he was an indigenous person that was at the festival taking care of the sacred fire.
Huh.
So he sees me and shows up and like, hey, like, do you need any help? It seems like you're very agitated.
Were you freaking out or something,
I
or
was
did he
freaking
just?
out. Yeah, I
Okay.
was just
Okay.
like walking around, freaking out. Where am I? Oh my god! And then this guy finds me. Hey, do you need some help? I'm like, yes, please help me. Like I don't know what's going
This is a really good dramatization. Keep going.
on. So he takes me to the sacred fire, which I've never been before back then, and pray for me and start singing songs and start blessing me with this sacred smoke and speaking and things. And I just felt so safe. I was
Hmm.
like, oh my God, this man is an angel. I'm just going to sit here and just hang out with him until this whole thing is gone. As we were there for the whole evening, I spent a whole night there with this man, and he was just praying and supporting me and talking to me. He offered me rapé medicine, which is a
Oh wow.
tobacco snuff
Yeah.
that indigenous people use in the Amazon. I had no idea what he was, and he's like, do you want this to try this medicine? I think it can really help you to ground." And I'm like, yes, yes, I'll do anything. Like, so he applies on me, and it felt like all the world chatting, like all these mental chatting I was having, and this many visuals suddenly stopped.
Hmm.
And it just became this sacred silence that brought me so much peace. I ended up having my first spiritual purge. I vomited right there. He took care of me. And as I'm vomiting, I'm realizing, like, what am I doing with my body?
Yeah.
Girl, you need to stop taking this heavy stuff. Like, this is not good for you. Your body is toxic. You need to clean. You need to take care of yourself. You have a purpose in this world. God is real. Like, let's
Hmm.
show up and
That's a big
change.
night. Really big night for you.
So that purge changed my life. And after that, this man became my teacher
Hmm.
and guided me to the sacred path of plant medicines.
Cool.
So the first place I went was Santo Daime. Santo Daime is a Brazilian lineage that takes ayahuasca, is the first lineage that connected with indigenous people and were able to bring ayahuasca to their church and spiritual practices. And Santo Daime has a Christian approach that is not Catholic, but spirits of Jesus, Mother Mary, angels, archangels, are part of their ceremonies,
Mm-hmm.
which is different than indigenous communities that their relationship with the medicines is very about the elemental beings of nature.
Right.
So I end up in this church because it was what my friend recommended to me, and I tried ayahuasca for the first time. And I really enjoyed the church. I felt so safe. I felt so seen. I healed so much. That's when my spiritual path really started.
Mm-hmm.
And I devoted my life to go back to this church. So I was going often, really putting time in this community. And Santo Daime is the only plant medicine lineage that incorporates Santa Maria, which is Mother Mary, aka Cannabis,
Mm-hmm. Mary
to
Jane.
some of their ceremonies. Not all of ceremonies. Is not every church that works with it, but is a sacred plant for them. And I experienced weed in an ayahuasca sacred divine experience, divine ritual. Until then, I just knew weed just like smoking with friends. I didn't even like it much. I used to have a lot of paranoia. But in these ceremonies, I got to understand what they mean, that they call them Spirit of Mother Mary. And we can talk more about this, but basically, there,
Mm-hmm.
I made peace with Jesus. I made peace with all the Christianity and all the stories that I've been told, things that I didn't like or didn't agree. Everything was a somatic experience of feeling the energy of Christ consciousness and feeling the energy of the female Christ as well, which is what is the role of Santa Maria in their spaces.
Hmm.
So fast forward my story. Now I live in the US. I've been here for 11 years and I've been an ally of indigenous communities and being able to bridge the ancient wisdom and culture that I have learned in my path, not only with Santo Daime, with as many indigenous traditions that I got to visit in my path,
Hmm.
to be able to bring this culture here, to be able to support the Western world, to create a sacred relationship with all plant medicines, to support us in our spiritual path. And it is a pleasure for me, an honor to be able to share what I've learned about cannabis with this lineage, as well as with other Rastafaris that I met in my path. I was part of a reggae band for some time. So I met these
Cool.
awesome Rasta hippies that
Yeah.
I get to now bring this wisdom to the modern world so that we get to see the medicine in a different way. Even
Beautiful.
in California, right? Weed, there's so much weed out there, and the cannabis industry is so unique. It's such a thing here.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started to, be involved in this realm here, I realized there was no intention, there was no sacredness, there was no history, there was no culture, and that and then it can become a very commercialized relationship or a drug relationship, just like any other chemical drugs.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a passion to talk about cannabis. I love that you invited me to be here. I love that Jade shares so much about how this medicine has supported her in her
Mm-hmm.
creative path, in her business path, and the potential of this medicine is infinite. So I'm so passionate about, and I look forward to our conversation.
Yeah, me too. That's awesome. Yay! That's so
Yay.
cool. That's great. And so, I'm just curious. Do you have any like? Do you know your heritage? Do you have some like indigenous heritage also?
No, actually, I have
Okay.
Italian, Portuguese, and Lebanese.
Oh, okay. Cool. Right
Yeah,
on.
and I was
Okay.
born and raised in Brazil.
Uh huh.
Yeah, my connection with indigenous people has been going to visit them and really wanting to experience their ways to receive medicine. And it changed me so much. I can't even tell you, like, these people have such a wise knowledge of the spiritual realm. Like, we are literally babies.
Mm-hmm.
Come, like, in our understanding of life and spiritual realm, the indigenous people have so many incredible cosmologies that just supported me to be a better human, supports me to navigate life, supports me to want to do good in the world, and to also be an ally of this movement of light, of divinity, of sacredness, of ritual for the world, because they are the guardians of the world, the guardians of the earth,
Hmm.
and we get to be the guardians of ancestral wisdom.
That's great. That's great. That's beautiful. That's all very much in line with, what we're trying to do here on Lunacy. You know what I mean? By the way, your name means moon, does it not?
It
Luna?
does. So
Yeah.
Lua is the moon in Portuguese.
Okay.
Luna is the moon in Spanish.
Yes.
Aluna means many things, but one that means is the learner, the student.
Okay.
So the student of the moon.
Beautiful. Well, I mean, obviously, you're on my podcast. Do you know what I mean? Where we talk about the moon. It's called Lunacy.
I know. I
And
see
now,
her right behind you.
yeah, we've got this mural up. I just interviewed my last, well, 2 interviews ago I did was with Miles Toland, who's the artist here and on this piece. And wow, just before we got started, I showed Lua the whole thing, and I was like, "Look at how amazing it is! I can't get over it. It's so beautiful."
It's
Ah.
so beautiful.
So it's great that you're here. Yeah, for me, I started studying sort of some Native American kind of ways when I was like 16. I had a friend's mom who took me to do some sweat lodge ceremonies, and I was like really moved. And I read a lot of books on Native American spirituality, Black Elk Speaks, and some others. And I just really was into that movement, and that hasn't really shifted for me. I still have that same passion and that same understanding and belief that like really those so many of these tribal communities really have a bead on what it is to live in right relationship with the planet, live in harmony with the planet, live in harmony with the elements, really appreciate creator and source, and they don't have Instagram, and there's not a lot of identity complexes and gender issues, and no, not that I'm throwing shade on any of that stuff. It's just very straightforward in those cultures, like, and so I think it's really beautiful that you're an ally of those communities. Me too.
Hmm.
Yeah. So in fact, the Hunikun are going to be up here in June. I think we're going to try and maybe hang out with
Awesome.
them, which should be really cool. You're probably familiar with those guys
Mm-hmm.
from Brazil, also. Um, yeah. Okay. Great. So, so one of the things I wanted to talk about is like my own history with marijuana, which I have used it for. So I think the first time I smoked the doobage was when I was 16. All right. I smoked some pot with some friends, and I was like, whoa, this is really cool. I like it. And I smoked it a few times in college. And then I really got into it in high school. I smoked it a few times. And then in college, I really got into it. I was like, wow, this is great stuff. And I was also studying Zen at the time. So there was like very much of a spiritual component to that medicine for me at the time as well. Then I would say, then I moved out to Los Angeles, and became kind of a different thing. It was became like a coping strategy and an escape for me. And somehow I lost that sacred relationship, that right relationship with that medicine, and I abused it. I'm not afraid to say, like, I was smoking every day, and I was using it to help my mood, but then inevitably it would help for a few minutes, and then it would just be worse. I would be worse off, than I was previously. Very much, I feel like, because I just didn't have a lot of intentionality around it, and I wasn't thinking, oh, this is a sacred medicine that I'm inviting, and I'm inviting this sort of spiritual energy. And what does that mean? What am I trying to get out of it? Whereas now, later in life, having also done a fair amount of ceremonies with ayahuasca, that was really kind of a big thing for me personally. I'm not suggesting everybody do ayahuasca. You really have to get called to do it. And uh, if you do, I wish you well on that journey. For me, it really opened my eyes to how important it is to like have a sacred intention with using this medicine, even with using alcohol, actually, which seems kind of crazy. But that's another drug that we very much abuse in our culture and don't think about. And then all of a sudden we're like, well, wait, why is my life all messed up? Well, you know, could be because you're abusing that substance, and I feel like so much of our culture these days is like, okay, let's make the strongest weed that we possibly can, and devise different ways of doing that so that people can get even higher. And that's really not, to me, that's also kind of in line with the escapist abuse kind of motif, and what we're here to discuss is how do we get into right relationship with this plant, because probably everybody who's listening to this does that medicine, maybe not everyone. And I know for me, it was really important to get in the right relationship. And so I'd love to hear you kind of talk about how it is that you address that with people. How does it you
Hmm.
usher that relationship in?
Yes, totally. I think the first thing to really be aware is the collective trauma that exists towards this plant. One of the most abused plants in the world are marijuana, tobacco, and coca.
Yeah.
Tobacco is represented as a divine masculine spirit, a masculine master spirit. And coca and marijuana is seen as a feminine spirit in indigenous communities.
Hmm.
So they represent the father and the mother. So tobacco and coca are used together in Colombian traditions, for example. They work with tobacco and betel, which is a paste, and the coca powder. And there's also the relationship between the tobacco and marijuana. A lot of people like to smoke weed on a blunt. They want to
Yeah.
mix both plants because
Spliff.
there is a spliff. Yeah, sorry, a
Yeah.
spliff.
I was a big spliffer myself
Or
back
a
in the day
blunt
when I was
too, right?
smoking.
A tobacco.
Rolled in like a cigar roll. Yeah.
So there is a relationship and a balance between these two medicines together.
Mm-hmm.
The system designed very well for us to see these plants as poison. So we see tobacco as cigarettes and it's bad for you. It causes many diseases. We see cannabis. We hear that cannabis is the doorway for all the other drugs. You might buy cannabis on a Latin America country in the same place that you're going to buy crack. The same person that
Gross.
sells crack sells weed.
Yeah.
And the weed is all mixed up. It's not even green.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to be aware of that, the collective energy of the war of drugs that already exists. That we, even if we are smoking like a nice little plant by ourselves with good intentions, we're still victims of this collective energy
Hmm.
that can affect our experience and our relationship with her. They feel ashamed that they like to smoke weed. They feel embarrassed. They feel that it's a secret. They don't want to tell people, or they're afraid, or they're afraid to get caught wherever they are. Like, oh, I can't be doing this. Like something can happen. So there's this so much fear involved, and these medicines that I think the first thing is to be aware of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The second thing is if you think about the cannabis is a feminine plant, what does that mean? Just like ayahuasca, right? If you go to an ayahuasca experience, everybody's there with their intentions and they're prepared and they pray for it and they receive the medicine with that full attention and respect. We don't do that with cannabis
Mm-mm.
in the same way.
No.
But they are meant to be treated with the same respect because a feminine medicine will take you to infinite possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
A masculine medicine is straightforward, right? You're going to do hape. Hey, we're going to cleanse your energy field. Hey, we're going to work with kambo. We're going to purge and release toxins from your body. We have like a full attention and goal. When we're working with ayahuasca, with cannabis, it's infinite. It can go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And because we don't have the proper space for that, we don't create the proper space for that, we judge the experience or use it to take us out of something, becomes escape.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is that you're not going to take ayahuasca on a Wednesday night by
No,
yourself.
not at all.
You know what I mean? I mean, I'm sure people do, but you're going to really
Not a lot.
need to think about that choice.
Yeah.
Because it's going to take over your body. Ayahuasca is not a medicine that you stay so present with your body the whole time, right? You can go to inner dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
Because cannabis is a medicine that we can stay aware, we can be in our body, we can move, we can talk, we can do all kinds of things. We end up abusing of that power.
Yeah.
Because then it becomes a reason. Oh, I just want to chill and hang out if I smoke weed, or I just gonna release my pain, the pain of my body, if I smoke weed.
Mm-hmm.
So we start using it as a shortcut to get what we want. And that can be very tricky because just like any other medicine, cannabis is a powerful spirit. And just like anything, if you overdo it, it becomes a drug. The difference between a medicine and a drug is the dosage.
Yeah.
So we need to approach with that respect. And I feel like the relationship is different for everybody. It's not for everybody to be sitting in prayer and meditation. It's like, no, some people want to smoke and want to go to the beach and hang out with their friends. I don't think that's bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of what's your relationship with that experience.
Right.
It's not a one-time thing either, right? So I like to see it that way. It's a spirit that you're communicating with, that has a way to work with, that has wisdom to share, that has healing to provide. And now it's up to us to create that balanced relationship with the spirit so that we can receive the benefits of opening our divine feminine energy. We can really understand what that means.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. Yeah, that's really fascinating, and I think it's also kind of just a place to think about it. I love really what you said about how this medicine is considered in our modern culture and how it's been considered for so long. And honestly, like she's just been so abused. Poor marijuana. She was outlawed because she was replacing paper back in the day, and then maybe also because it's a more liberating drug than alcohol. But now that she's becoming more legal and you can get, it's totally legal here and in Los Angeles and so many states across the US. But still there is a stigma that's associated with it. There's you're a bad kid for smoking the weed, and the war on drugs. Ronald Reagan's or Nancy Reagan's voice is still echoing in our ears, our collective ears. Uh, so that's a really important thing to I think to just talk about, because it's also, even in just having that conversation, like let's realize, look, marijuana has been around since probably before humanity was even a thing. This plant has been around. We in our bodies have cannabinoid receptors, so there's something already built into the human physiology that is related to this plant and our ability to consume it and how it affects us positively.
Just the temperature, turn on the heat, and then once it's ready, once it's hot, so it doesn't burn the flower, it just heats up the flower so the terpenes melt.
Hmm.
So you're literally inhaling the terpenes with air
Okay.
instead of the ash of the fire.
Right.
And if you say like, hey, I really want a flower vaporizer, but I don't want to get a volcano, I also recommend these vape pens called the packs. They
Okay.
are they are they have flower vapes,
Oh, cool.
which are more portable, so they're not so expensive. You can have one, you can uh, take wherever you go,
Hmm.
and you never need to roll a joint again.
That's great, and it just vapes it inside of the
You
contraption.
just replace the weed over there is a little bit. Obviously, the volcano is more.
Yeah, a lot
So
more.
it's hot. So I get the balloon.
Okay, you're going with the hot air balloon over there.
I'll put it
Gonna
here.
get high with the hot air balloon. I like it.
You
Oh, it's
have your
inflating.
edible. You're gonna have an edible, yeah?
Yeah, so just so everybody's aware, I used to smoke cigarettes, and so I can't smoke weed. I try not to smoke it anymore, like joints and stuff like that. So I'm an edible guy. So I'm gonna eat one of these fast acting gummies, um, and see what happens. They usually hit pretty quick, and this
I
is, I
want to
think,
try one of
sativa.
those.
Yeah, they're good. It's 10 milligrams, which is that's my maximum. But since we're doing the podcast, I'm gonna go for it. I'll wait until we're ready.
So the balloon is ready. And then I
Okay.
just put this thing right here. And we're
Okay.
ready. Are we
Do,
ready?
do we want to set an intention, or
Yes.
what do we do? We're ready.
So I want to set an intention, and my intention is to invite the spirit of Mary Jane to join us in this call, to bring us wisdom, to bring us joy, to bring us inspiration, so that we can share about her, we can represent her in the best way, and inspire our people here to also have a sacred relationship with her.
Beautiful. And I'm going to set an intention for expansion, creativity, and entertainment for everybody, and that this whole experience is beneficial to those of you out there listening in Lunacy Land, because I love you.
If you get the chance to smoke with us right now, we love you.
Yeah.
Viva
And if not, no
Santa
worries.
Maria!
Viva!
I love it.
Great. I'm probably going to cut part of that out, so you guys don't have to hear me chewing the entire time. You know what I mean? That's weird.
I would love to bring a little bit of the history of cannabis, the hidden history of cannabis.
Sure. Let's talk about the hidden history. The hidden hitter. Man, that was talk about fast acting. I can't even move my mouth properly. Holy God. Today on Lunacy, the hidden history of marijuana. Yeah, let's hear about it.
So I think a lot of people don't know this, but there are these Indians, people in India called the sadhu. Sadhu means the holy person. And these are basically these spiritual gurus that live in the streets. Some people think they're homeless, but they're actually spiritual people that are completely devoted to the path of spirituality. And they work with cannabis as their master plant.
Hmm.
And they work with cannabis to meditate. The sadhu people have healing powers. They are incredible people. They have so much deep connection with God. They're really wise. And there are stories that Jesus, in the times that nobody knows, the time that it doesn't show Jesus' story, the lost years
Yeah,
of
when he went to
Jesus.
the east and did his whole thing up in India.
Exactly. And then they say that Jesus spent some time in India studying with the sadhus.
Okay, that makes sense.
If Jesus studied with the sadhus, Jesus definitely smoked weed.
Big stoner, you guys. JC, all right, smoking the doob back in the
Yes.
day.
So the principle of the sadhus is to smoke weed to connect with God. It's a spiritual sacrament.
Mm-hmm.
And the weed got very popular when Bob Marley got famous. And Bob Marley was in Jamaica worshiping Haile Selassie, which
Right.
was the Rastafarian, which they call like was a very important person, like the son of God. And the connection with weed and Bob Marley kind of spread out this movement in Jamaica. In the Rastafari movies, people that work with cannabis sacredly, they're all about good vibrations, do no harm, have a higher energy, source of energy in your life. They're really good people that value family, value community, value children. And they have a lot to teach. And cannabis is their master teacher. It's what shows them these ways. There's also a lot of oils, anointing oils in the Bible that are kind of mysterious. We don't know exactly all these oils are about. And there are a lot of facts in the Bible that says that Jesus healed people with certain diseases. That these days you could see that some of these diseases these days can be treated with cannabis oil.
Hmm.
Yes. So there are stories that believe that Jesus was working with hash oils. This could be one of his healing oils that he was using to help people.
Okay.
There's another part of the Bible that the three kings give baby Jesus a present.
A big giant spliff. No.
So there are stories that say that they're frankincense, myrrh, and gold.
Uh-huh.
Frankincense and myrrh are plants. Gold is a mineral. There's no other story in the Bible that says what the hell Jesus did with this gold.
Right. That's
So
true.
there's people that
He
believe
did not buy a big shelter. You know what I mean? That's
exactly.
not what he did.
So there's people that believe, stories that believe that gold is also a nickname for cannabis.
Oh.
And if one of these kings was from India, a big part of their sacrament, it was cannabis. So the possibility of him bringing cannabis as a healing herb to Jesus, it's quite promising.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay, good. So Jesus got high on his birthday, like when he was born.
Yes.
That's what you said. That's what I just said. The three kings, they came, they fucking shut all the windows. All right. They just started smoking joints big time. All right. They were smoking frankincense and myrrh too. And Jesus got high as a kite, as a baby.
Exactly.
That's not what you
So
said. That's not what you're saying.
that's that. Believe it or not, everybody has their own ways to
But
interpret this story. But I have a whole class on this in which I break this down deeper. But the point of the story is
seriously, I mean, I'm making fun of it, but of course, like I hear you. This that could actually be what actually happened, and go on.
yeah, a lot of mystery there. Things, food for thought.
Mm-hmm.
But the main point of the story is the Mary Jane, which is marijuana in Santa Maria, was the plant that Jesus, which we can say Christ consciousness, which we all have that within ourselves, to connect with the mother, the spirit of the mother, the unconditional love, the divine healing. So if you think about Christ consciousness as a frequency of unconditional love, Santa Maria is the female aspect of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a cool thing to think about, because if we only see God and spiritual teachers as males, we will naturally relate power and leadership with male figures.
Right.
So it makes sense that this was hidden from us. This story is hidden from us. And obviously, so much more complex than what I'm sharing, but there's so much there to be explored of what the female figure means on the spiritual realm, in the leadership, on these spiritual teachers that we worship until this day. Because if there was a woman figure in the picture, we will also be able to see divinity and leadership with women, not only with males.
Right.
And that will create a big balance, a much better balance
Oh,
in our lives.
balance. Oh. Well, Lua, I think it's clear, that only men have ever ruled, and men are the best at it. And we're the only ones who could be spiritual, and that's it. So good talk and a podcast. That was fun. Yeah, I have a mother. I love my mother. She's a very spiritual person. And she she probably has the closest relationship to God of almost anybody that I know. And I just she and I have talked about it before. It's clear that the role of women around Jesus is highly underplayed. She actually just did a play at her church about how you know basically all the women who were around Jesus, who also, some of them like paid for his escapades and like what he was doing. Like they were really supportive. There was a whole cadre of ladies that were around him that are historically, we know about them. They're just not in the Bible. And, my wife met you at a Mary Magdalene retreat, which is all about the gospel according to Mary Magdalene, who was not a hooker. She was not a prostitute. All right. She was Jesus' partner, actually. There's some, books in the Apocrypha that were nixed from the Bible when they figured out what they wanted to include and not include. They talk about that they were like kissing a lot. People were complaining that they were making out, which I think is great, frankly, because it's super fascinating because then if you look at the skewed relationship that we have to sexuality and relationship with men between men and women that happens from Christianity and Puritan, the Puritans, that whole thing, and going back to the Roman Catholics, and the priests can't have partners, and also women can't be priests, and just all this other. Well, I'm going to call it bullshit. All right, I'm sorry, everyone, but I did it. That's how I feel. I just think it's a big bag of horse shit. No one was ever born from a man. So, quite simply, even if you don't believe in God, you must believe that women are sacred because they brought you here. You know what I mean?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
and I really think that that's you know there's also a big misconception these days, and I get it because I am a man. There's a little bit of a backlash, and people confuse feminism with thinking that women are better than men, which is not at all what it's about. It's about having balance between men and women, and that's been acknowledging that that's been out of balance. There's terms out there like toxic masculinity and predatory behavior, and really like so much of that is not toxic masculinity. It's toxic boy energy. It's that boys have not been trained to be men, to really like embrace their divine masculine and that aspect of them. And when one does look at embracing, when one does, because I'm a perfect example, all right. uh I do feel like I'm a relatively good example of someone who embraces this idea of embracing my divine masculine and rising to my king archetype, according to Carl Jung. That's like this benevolent force that's really encouraging and loving of all things. Well, then that's also very encouraging and loving of the feminine, and there's a recognition of the need for the queen and the balance therein. And so a lot of times we conflate, oh, we're saying men are bad. No, that's not what we're saying. We're saying that there's a need for balance, and we can have that. And not only is that balance important to restoring more of an order and a harmony in this world, but it's also really important to healing what is ailing men by and large. Us not feeling like we're living our purpose, us not feeling like we've gone through enough initiations in this life, like lack of recognition of what we've achieved and who we are as men. Well, so much of that energy comes from the feminine, and just allowing and giving permission to be. That is the spirit of Mother Mary. That is the spirit of the divine feminine. So yeah, I think it's really important to talk about this kind of history with this plant, and embark on the idea that, yeah, you know what, maybe JC was smoking the reefer with them Indian sadhus, back in the day. All right, doing it to it. And back then it wasn't illegal and it wasn't frowned upon, and people weren't like, what are you doing? They were just, it was a choice that people were making.
Yeah, and also just say that this balance comes from within ourselves first.
Yeah.
We all have the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Besides of how we are physically, we have these two energies. So when you're working with cannabis, you want to be aware that you're working with your feminine energy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what does that mean? It means creativity.
What does that mean,
It
Lua?
means to be in your body,
Uh-huh.
to come back to your body. Like I loved smoking weed to do a yoga class, for example,
Okay.
or to
Yeah.
do a dance class. I feel so much more present. I feel like my body stretches more. I enjoy the experience. So it's coming to the body, to that somatic experience. It can also bring emotions. Sometimes I
Mm-hmm.
smoke weed. I don't know. I just had a conflict situation with my partner, and then I smoke weed, and then I start crying, and then I'm able to talk from my heart.
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to have a way more gentle experience with myself and the way I see others. So it can really open up our hearts in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
It can also open up your creativity. I
Yes.
like to smoke weed to brainstorm my ideas.
Mm-hmm.
with my partner or with a mentor or even with a client.
Mm-hmm.
I like to smoke weed to think about, infinite potential and go far beyond the tangible limits and really see these, other ways of seeing my life or life of the others that when we're stuck in this world, it's kind of hard to see.
Mm-hmm.
So she can open up your creative gifts, your psychic channels, your magical gifts, your relationship with spirit, like your clairvoyance. It's
Mm-hmm.
weed is a psychedelic experience. It's a psychedelic medicine. So I like to smoke weed and look at nature.
Yeah, me too.
And then suddenly I'm like, whoa, look at that. Having a whole psychedelic visual experience that makes me closer to God.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, boom, I'm right here at my house.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful to see it that way. So I think it's is this honoring that experience. Like, okay, what is the intention?
Yeah.
Why do I want to smoke now? Why do I want to communicate with the mother spirit,
Mm-hmm.
the feminine spirit? Oh, it's because I want to dance. I want to have a
Mm-hmm.
dance ritual right now. Great. So make that a dance prayer.
Yeah.
Release distractions. Get out of your phone. Plan yourself for that. Give yourself the safety and safe space to enjoy that experience, because I think what gives the paranoia is when, like, oh, okay, I'm just going to smoke and I'm going to do my yoga class. And then in 5 minutes, beep, 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 my phone. Oh my God, I forgot I need to send that text. Oh my God, that person's going to call me right after. Oh my God, this is like, that's what's going to give you paranoia, because you're not allowing the
The
medicine to
experience to
take you to
unfold.
a journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she needs that. She needs the safe space to provide what you need.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about it is that you can have a plan. Let's say, okay, I'm going to do my yoga class, and then suddenly right before the yoga class, I don't know, I start journaling. And then this whole thing comes through, like, oh my God, look at this insight. I'm like, wow, I'm writing a poem or I'm writing a song. It's like, oh, my plan was to do the yoga, but this happened.
Yeah.
And this is great. Like, maybe that's what I'm here to do then. Let's switch gears
Mm-hmm.
and let the medicine take me. But that's okay. Why? Because I'm separating that space for myself. So that was the space for me to smoke and enjoy, and then the medicine took me to a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. I'm going to be flexible with it instead of pushing myself of like, oh, but I need to do this and this and this. Like, we want to be flexible with
Allow it.
her, because you might think you need something and then suddenly you need something else.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Yeah, it's interesting. I also use it creatively pretty often. I use it, and by the way, do what you do out there in the world. I don't. I have a rule that I don't do it every day. It's just me personally. Like that helps to keep me in right relationship with it. But there are times where I do use it in the songwriting process, in the editing process, and in other ways to really like embrace my creativity or see beyond something that I couldn't see before and put things together in a different way. I find that to be super valuable. It really allows me to, as you say, think about things from a different perspective and kind of let go of constraints, particularly if I'm using it that way, if I'm being intentional, as you're saying. If I continue to have an attitude of gratitude about it, all right, I just said that and I'll say it again. But if I do continue to have like, oh, thank you for this medicine. Like right now I'm feeling more of the medicine from eating the edible and it feels great and I'm grateful. And so I'm saying thank you to the medicine. Well, that's a direct communication with that energy that is also reciprocated. You know what I mean? Versus, as you're saying, people can get paranoid or they can go in a different direction. Sometimes that's because they need to look at something that they haven't looked at, and now it's being presented to them by the spirit. And other times it's because they didn't set the right intention or container or whatever. But you can always come back to being grateful and saying thank you for this medicine, thank you for this experience, and and ask for what you need. If you are getting paranoid, just say, hey, this is scary for me, please like help me to ground and just be present. Call in whatever positive spirits, all right, your inner angels or your outer angels or whatever you believe in. I find that it's a great way to pray. You know, I'm a big I'm a big believer in prayer. I think
Mm-hmm.
it is the great resetter, and I don't mean like any kind of prayer other than whatever your prayer is personally. You know, I'm not trying to backseat prayer you um, out there, but like it's a really great way for me to be able to connect and recognize the spirit of all things around me. Like you're saying with nature, you know, I love to snowboard. Sometimes I like to imbibe some marijuana. I like to use that as a sacrament. It helps me. I like to snowboard through the trees a lot. There's a lot of times where I'll just stop and pray in the middle of the trees on the mountain and pray in gratitude for how grateful I am for the experience of being able to be there, having the skill to be there, having the privilege to be there on the mountain, being able to see, you know, all the animals and everything that's going on in the trees in the winter. It's so moving. And also that is heightened
Mm-hmm.
by the use of this medicine. So then it allows me to connect even deeper to the mountain, which I think is so critical for who I am and what I'm about, and also allows me to play and have fun and enjoy, you know, this experience of life.
Yeah, it's like connecting with your inner child, right? Suddenly you're there and like, wow, I'm like a little boy on the beach. Like, this is so cool. Look at that. Look at this. Look at that. It connects us with that inner child spirit that we all have and we all need to cultivate because that's
Hmm.
why we're here for. We
Yeah.
do all the things that we do to be able to go to the beach and have an epic day in nature that you forgot about your life
Right.
outside there. So it's this connection with our little kid. It's very connected to our mothers.
Hmm. Yeah.
So when we get to that gratitude for our mothers, and I know there's so much mother wounds that, including myself, you know, most of us have a lot of wounds in our relationship with our mothers. This is it. As we heal our relationship with the divine mother spirit, the
Hmm.
goddess,
Yeah.
we get to open space to also heal our wounds with our real mother, with Mother Nature. And then we get to experience life more from that inner child spirit of pleasure, of abundance, and fun, and play, and healing as well, right? It's all on the same.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Should
Yeah.
we pray?
Yeah. Let's do some prayer. Okay.
Let's
Let's do
do
some
some
prayer.
prayers. So I feel the medicine as well. So let's just close our eyes if you wish, or just a soft gaze. I like to really connect with my body and be present with the sensations of my breath. So let's do 3 big inhales with your belly, with your chest, collarbone, and head as max as you can, really breathing in from the belly. And exhale with a sound. Let's do 2 more of these. Inhale, pulling the belly out, and exhale with a sound. One more. Inhale, hold at the top, align the spine, relax your face, and exhale. And just keep breathing, inhalation and exhalation with no pause, finding a nice flow. You're welcome to be in prayer pose if you wish. Ave Maria, cheia de graça, o Senhor é convosco. Bendita sois vós entre as mulheres, bendito é o fruto do vosso ventre, Jesus. Santa Maria, Mãe de Deus, rogai por nós, rezadores, agora e na hora de nossa morte. Amém.
Amen.
Gracias, Madrecita. Muchas gracias. Gratidão, Mãezinha. Thank you, Goddess. Thank you, Mother. Thank you for the opportunity to be representing you in this moment, to be honoring your sacredness, to be able to express our gratitude for you in our lives and in the lives of many others. And I want to share this prayer with you so that from this moment forward, you continue to lead us to the path of love, to the path of joy and abundance, and change our character, change our behavior, change whatever is needed. We open our bodies for you to heal, to express, to create, so that we can walk this path within the truth, in beauty, in grace. So thank you for being here with us right now. And thank you, Jeff, for opening the space. And may you touch the hearts of all the ones that are hearing us. May you support them to build a healthy relationship with you and to heal you. We know the amount of harm that has been put on you, and we open ourselves to release and pray for all of our mothers. May we bless all of their mothers in this world. May they receive the love that they're here to receive. And all the children in the world, may we bless all these children in the world. May they live happy, healthy, abundant. And may this beauty, this healing, this light just bless us today, right now. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Beautiful.
Do you want to add to this prayer, Jeff?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for putting me in touch with Lua here so that we can have this conversation, so that we can, spread our relationship with marijuana with you, with other people, to really encourage people to take full advantage of the sacredness of this medicine and to really be intentional about it. I know what a difference it's made for me to really be in right relationship with you, Santa Maria, and I wish that for everybody, that it becomes not an escape, but a way to engage.
Aho.
Aho. Good. All right, great. Now let's do some crack. Part 2. Everybody, you didn't know it. Surprise. They're smoking crack, kids. Big time. All right. I got some meth up my sleeve. And that's a great place to end part 1 of this 2-parter on the magic of marijuana. On the next episode, we smoke crack. Get ready for the fall, people. It's going to be good. Kidding, of course. Next time on Lunacy, we get into the dangers and pitfalls of marijuana, more of the sacred history of this plant, and how to live in right relation with this sacred medicine. If you want to support this podcast and become part of the Lunacy community, go to patreon.com/Lunacy podcast. All help is welcome, and it keeps us going. Much love, and see you next week.